We are continuing our discussion of D block elements. Now comes coloration. See, coloration reason is DD transition. Why transition elements are colored? That is due to DD transition. That is excitation of electrons from T to G to EG level. Means the D subshell electrons, the D subshell splits into two energy sublevels, that is T2G and EG. This is called T2G and this is EG. Alright, this is EG, doubly degenerate set, and this is triply degenerate set. So if we have some electrons in T2G and when it is kept in visible light, it absorbs a particular amount of energy from the visible light so that this electron is excited to EG. And while some color is absorbed, it emits a particular color and it looks colored, and this excitation is called DD transition. Alright, or we call it due to excitation of electrons from T to G to EG level. So in general, the point is, if we have any ion with D0 configuration like scandium 3 positive, or if we have any ion with D10 configuration like zinc 2 positive, or cadmium 2 positive, mercury 2 positive, etc., they are always colorless, because in D0 and D10 this kind of electronic excitation is not possible. Alright, in general D1 to D9 states, D1 to D9 state ions are colored. Alright, then transition elements are, in general, they are good catalyst. Transition elements are a good catalyst. Reason, they provide large surface area for adsorption of reactant, and due to adsorption high amount of heat is released during chemical adsorption. So energy of activation, if this heat is released, obviously it is absorbed by reactants and they reach to a comparatively higher energy level, and we know that energy of activation is inversely proportional to rate. So since energy of activation is decreased, rate of reaction is increased. Second is due to variable oxidation state. Due to variable oxidation state also, transition elements act as a good catalyst, and at least try to remember this catalyst, that is reaction of I negative and S2O8 2 negative in the presence of Fe3 positive, it is converted to I2 and twice of SO4 2 negative. In this reaction, what happens? In the first step, Fe3 positive react with I negative to produce twice of Fe2 positive, and we get I2. And in the second step, this Fe2 positive combine with the S2A2 negative to give Fe3 positive plus SO4 2 negative. So see, Fe3 we are getting back. So Fe3, by changing its oxidation state, helping this reaction to proceed. So variable oxidation state also helps catalysis. Then comes interstitial compound formation. When transition elements are heated, when transition elements are heated along with the boron, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, etc., non-metals, these are trapped in interstitial spaces of metal lattice. These are interstitial spaces like carbon, etc., they get trapped, and such compounds are interstitial compounds. Alright, interstitial compounds are normally non-stoichiometric. They are non-stoichiometric. Do you understand non-stoichiometry? Non-stoichiometric means like if we have Ni 0.980, such compounds are called non-stoichiometric compounds. Stoichiometric compounds are compounds in which we have a definite ratio or whole number ratio of elements, like BaCl2. What is the atomic ratio? 1:2. So this compound is called stoichiometric compound, and these compounds are called non-stoichiometric compounds. So interstitial compounds are non-stoichiometric. these compounds are neither typically ionic nor covalent. We cannot say they are typically ionic or covalent. Their melting point is higher than pure metals. You must remember the melting point of these interstitial compounds. If you compare interstitial compounds with the parent metal, you will find that the melting point follows this order. So this is again very important. All right. They are chemically inert. Interstitial compounds, they are chemically inert. This point is also important. And they retain metallic conductivity. They retain metallic conductivity. So these points are important. All right. Now comes K2Cr2O7. K2Cr2O7. Potassium dichromate. Potassium dichromate. Chromate ion is CrO4 negative. This is CrO4 negative. This is the structure of chromate ion. All right. And dichromate ion is CrOCr. This is O negative, like this. This is the structure of Cr2O7 negative. And normally one question is asked, see here resonance is possible. So these three bonds, bond length will be same. These three bond length will be same. So 6 CRO bonds show same bond length, and this one is different, and this bond length is more than this bond length. All right, so you should be careful. And now and then during reaction K2Cr2O7 is self-reduced. It shows oxidizing behavior only in acidic media where it is self-reduced to Cr3 positive. And about the equivalent mass of K2Cr2O7, it is molar mass divided by 6, that is change in oxidation state per mole. And one more reaction you must remember, dichromate Cr2O7 negative. This is almost red orange. And in the presence of alkali, it is converted to CrO4 negative, which is yellow. And if acid is added, again it is converted to red orange. So you must remember this conversion also. All right. Then we have KMnO4. KMnO4 is again a strong oxidizing agent. It is stronger than K2Cr2O7. It shows oxidizing behavior in acidic media where it is self-reduced to Mn2 positive, in neutral or basic media where it is self-reduced to MnO2, and in strong basic media, it is self-reduced to MnO4 negative. So here if you look at the change in oxidation state, 7 to plus 2 so equivalent mass is M by 5, or valence factor is 5. Here it is equivalent mass is M by 3, and in the last case it is M by 1. All right. And how it is prepared in laboratory, it is also important. This pyrolusite, that is MnO2 combined with the KOH, all right, and oxygen in the presence of KNO3. This is the oxidizing agent, and it oxidizes it to K2MnO4. Initially it is oxidized to K2MnO4, all right, plus H2O. And then this K2MnO4 is disproportionated. This MnO4 negative is disproportionated in acidic media, acidic or neutral media, to MnO4 single negative and MnO2. All right. And in laboratory, this Mn2 positive is oxidized to MnO4 negative using S2O8, if you can remember. And this MnO4 negative is MnO4 2 negative is green. Both are tetrahedral. MnO4 2 negative is green. This is green in color. And MnO4 single negative, MnO4 single negative, it is purple in color, right? At least these things you try to remember. All right, and as far as their chemical properties are concerned, see, normal properties like H2S, it is sulfur S in -2 state. Normally, whether you use KMnO4 or K2Cr2O7, the central atom changes its oxidation state to next higher oxidation state, means H2S is oxidized to sulfur. Or if you have SO3 2 negative, where the oxidation state is +4, it is oxidized to SO4 2 negative, where the oxidation state is +6. Whether you use KMnO4 or K2Cr2O7, you will find the same result. And if you have Fe2 positive, Fe2 positive is oxidized to Fe3 positive. So these are the oxidizing actions of KMnO4 and K2Cr2O7. Alright. And KMnO4, I told you, it is reduced to Mn2 positive in acidic media, and K2Cr2O7 is reduced to Cr3 positive in acidic media. K2Cr2O7 shows only oxidizing behavior only in acidic media. So this you must remember. All right. Thank you.